In this episode of Quakers Today, we consider optimism and pessimism amid turmoil.
We reflect on the power of silence.
And you will learn a little about Joshua Tree National Park and the woman who helped protect over 825,000 acres of the desert.
I am Peterson Toscano.
And I am Miche McCall.
This is Season 4, Episode 1 of the Quakers Today podcast, a project of Friends Publishing Corporation. This season of Quakers Today is sponsored by the American Friends Service Committee and Friends Fiduciary. Hey, Miche, welcome back. Welcome back, listeners. We haven't done this since September, and I'm aware that a lot has happened since September 2024. Let's recap.
Oh, gosh, yes. It was 75 degrees on Halloween, and this year's UN climate talks imploded. And there was the US election.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Half the country is thrilled, and the other half is terrified.
Transgender rights are being debated at the Supreme Court, and the US is still going ahead with a ban on TikTok, which creates an existential crisis for me.
About the election. My first presidential election was in 2016. I was 19 years old, and all 3 times Donald Trump has been the Republican candidate. Many, but not all, Quakers today are alarmed, concerned, and unclear about where to go from here.
What about you, Miche? How are you feeling about all of this?
I oscillate between despair that we've passed the tipping point of destroying ourselves and taking all of creation down with us, and the potentially vain hope that it's always darkest before the dawn and we're going to pull through. How are you feeling, Peterson?
I feel overwhelmed. I have a big imagination, so I'm imagining how bad things can happen in the USA and the rest of the world regarding democracy, human rights, and climate. I'm also overwhelmed by friends who are in full-blown panic mode, especially on social media. And I totally understand their feelings, but it doesn't help me to doom scroll and take in so much hopelessness.
Yeah, and people are looking for answers and direction. I'm leaning into my Quaker community. Quakers, especially our elders, have deep wisdom, experience, and perspective that might offer me an understanding of how to move forward.
And you recently spoke with one of our Quaker elders.
I did. Adrian Glamorgan. He's the executive secretary of Friends World Committee for Consultation for the Asia West Pacific section. His article, The Devoted Path, Holding Fast to the Promise of New Creation, explores the topic of optimism and pessimism. It appears in the December 2024 issue of Friends Journal.
By temperament, I'm naturally optimistic about what humanity can ultimately achieve, and yet ever watchful. I tilt toward the heavily pessimistic when I consider where we are heading. This native combination has given me the energy to work for change, usually without being overwhelmed by what looms ahead. This feels a lighter burden than if I dared to fully grasp the destruction that manifests around us now. For example, in our climate. I can't dally too long to imagine what the next years of heat and fire and flood will be like, nor consider too many details of a limited nuclear war leading to a global catastrophe, nor contemplate the meaninglessness that artificial intelligence may scramble out of our human capacity to create. These threats are real and generally destructive, but they cannot occupy and decimate my inner compassion or willingness to engage. I keep these threats outside the inner calm, or they will burn away my capacity to love and to act. Not everyone is naturally disposed this way. They may feel the pain more fully when they watch the news or see where things are heading. We need people with such a range of compassion and empathy, but sometimes grasping the fuller realities of the planet's existential threats can lead to despondency or to a protective withdrawal from harsh realities. We can consider other spiritually empowering alternatives, finding ways intrinsic to being a Quaker.
Adrian has been a kindergarten teacher, a college professor, a union organizer, and had his own radio program. But most of his experience in the world is in environmental and peace movements and activism. But his approach to this work changed after he became a Quaker.
Before I was a Quaker, I was quite active in a lot of social change. After I hadn't seen a friend of mine in the social change movement, in the peace movement, they got really cross with me. Adrian, you've changed. You used to be so angry. I knew exactly what she meant, because anger around injustice is a fuel that can burn for a long time. But it goes off in all directions, anger, and it doesn't connect with people. In fact, it disconnects people.
Early Quakers envisioned a new creation, marked by human perfectibility, love and integrity, free from sin, but faced resistance as most people clung to the old creation.
What it is inside of us, I think, is a picture of the world as we wish it to be. Quakers have insights about how to bring ourselves closer to that. So we may not arrive at it, but it's a compass point. We have a duty now to learn the skills of stepping back into interdependence with consciousness, to co-create in ways that are meaningful and worthy of who we are. It involves us learning to respect life and rejoice and find awe and wonder in it, as well as being productive and feeding people and giving the capacity to have meaningful lives. That's my picture of the new creation. I'd be interested in other people's.
Adrian points out that extremes do not help us honestly face challenges.
Excessive optimism is not being honest. And excessive pessimism isn't being honest. There's no integrity to that. When you hear the word integrity, integrate. Integrate what you know is happening in the world and what can be done about it. Integrate your spiritual experience and work from that place. And then you can trust and have faith. It doesn't rely on your ego to move the world. All you have to do is your part in it.
For Adrian, our job is to embrace our leadings. Leaning into faithfulness is the solution.
Someone's got a passion for ballet or F1 or for being a horticulturalist or a teacher or an accountant. Follow your passion. Better still, follow your leading as it arises, because that will be part of the solution. That may not look like being at the front line, being at the barricades.
In his article, Adrian writes about devotion. In my earlier days at evangelical churches, devotion for me was about daily prayer times and Bible reading. Adrian helps expand my understanding.
Devotion, though, I don't think people step into devotion. It sounds far too pious to me. Excuse me, I'm just about to be devoted. It doesn't work that way for most of us. I think what happens is you start doing something because it's right to do it, and then you can't stop doing it. And it feels right to do it. Everything works so that you can do it, and you keep doing it. And then people say, they notice. They say, you're doing that. You know that you can't quite stop. You know that people draw strength from it. You keep doing, and you have long days and nights. And you say, why am I doing this? It's taking far too long. But you can't not do it. Guess what? You've arrived at devotion.
As Quakers, we have a truly countercultural practice, sitting in silence together.
I've got a feeling that the idea of sitting quietly resets us neurologically. I'm not advocating Quaker for health purposes, but actually it's quite healthy to do it, because your state of being in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn slowly releases when you give yourself enough time. You can de-traumatize through sitting quietly.
Another feature of Quaker meetings is the role of committees. Even if you're not a Quaker, you might be on a committee or task force. Adrian gave me a fresh perspective about the purpose of being in one of these subgroups.
And in your committees, oh my goodness, committees, because they can be minor circles of uncomfortability. I won't say hell. We need to think of our committees in two ways. One, as a place where people commit. Committees has intrinsically in the word commit. So whatever committee you're on, commit to it. And the other one is strive for fellowship and spiritual experience above doing things, because you can make great busyness, but not much spirit. And it drives people away.
Adrian provides a vision of how we can navigate through our current time of multiple crises.
We can hold fast to the new creation without being mesmerized by the ocean of darkness. We can discern to avoid having either optimism or pessimism pull us away from our true calling. We can be strengthened by gratitude, especially when we consider others in our Quaker community and the way the Spirit has held us in the past. And we can come to understand the power of devotion when it settles in us and gives us the strength to persevere.
That was Adrian Glamorgan, the Executive Secretary of Friends World Committee for Consultation for the Asia West Pacific section.
His article, The Devoted Path, Holding Fast to the Promise of New Creation, appears in the December 2024 issue of Friends Journal. You can also read it at friendsjournal.org.
I am Mr. Pradeep Lamisane from Nepal. So I go to Bhaktapur Evangelical Friend Church in Nepal. Silence is a power of many things, like silence will start the joy, the silence will start the love. That's why I like silence, and I am continually trying to get connected with the friends around the world, so I can participate and engage and contribute whatever I can. I have experienced poverty, I have experienced difficulties, I have experienced conflict. During this period of years, the God helped me to go through all of these difficulties, poverty, sorrow, pain, troubles, starvations. That's all the given by God. That's what we say in evangelical way. Now, if you follow, all door will be open, all the wisdom will be poured to you, and all the circumstances will be clear. That's what I believe. So every morning I wake up, I say, thank you, God. That's all. Before going to bed, oh God, thank you very much. How lovely you are. Many people think they have to do lots of things to talk to God, You don't have to do anything. You just live with the God. But saying that, you need community, So community help you to guide you to connect the God. Sometimes people say, why should I go to the church? Why should I go to the meeting? It's all old people are there. The young people says they are not speaking what we need. They are speaking old traditions, old culture. The friend church and friend community started from this problem actually. During that time, everybody is complaining. What they are complaining? They are complaining pastor is not good. They are complaining church is not good. They are complaining meeting is not good. They are complaining seating chair is not good. George Fox said you can directly talk with the God and your problem will be solved. You don't need to go and complain, but that of God is inside of you. Then why do you complain to others? Because that is inside of you. If you complain for yourself, because the problem is not outside. The problem is inside. You don't need to go outside. You ask inside and you will get peace. You will be blessed. And then friends will join you. They will feel that of God in you. And they will also bless. The blessing is like that. You give blessing and you pass the blessing. That's how it should work. Give and pass. in other culture of religions, there is a lots of things you have to do. You have to wake up early morning, you go to bath on the cold waters, and there are lots of materials you have to prepare, to worship. And for us, just say, thank you, God. How are you doing? How is he? It's okay. I go with a simplex. God is love. God is full of mercy. God will be there always for you, but you need to talk with him.
That was an excerpt from the Quaker Speak video, The Quaker Simplicity of Talking to God. You can find this video and the Quaker Speak channel on YouTube, or visit quakerspeak.com.
It's time for our Friends Journal book review. We're excited to share a fascinating biography for young readers. Tom and Sandy Farley reviewed the book Cactus Queen, Minerva Hoyt Establishes Joshua Tree National Park. It was written by Laurie Alexander and illustrated by Jen Ely. Tom and Sandy highlight why this biography was overdue. As environmentally conscious Californians who frequent Joshua Tree National Park, they had never heard of Minerva Hoyt. In 1936, her work helped protect over 825,000 acres of the desert. This book captures her journey from nature enthusiast to pioneering conservationist who used her artistic and political savvy to preserve the Mojave Desert's unique ecosystem. The Farleys praise Jen Ely's vibrant illustrations, which bring the beauty and challenges of the desert to life. They also commend the supplemental materials at the end of the book. These include notes on Minerva's life, the park's flora and fauna, and even tips for budding environmental activists. Cactus Queen is a meaningful read for ages 7 to 10, and it's available as a hardcover or ebook. To read the full review by Tom and Sandy Farley, visit Friends Journal online at friendsjournal.org. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Quakers Today. Quakers Today is written and produced by me, Peterson Toscano.
And me, Miche McCall. Music on today's show comes from Epidemic Sound.
Season 4 of Quakers Today is sponsored by Friends Fiduciary. Since 1898, Friends Fiduciary has provided values-aligned investment services for fellow Quaker organizations. Friends Fiduciary consistently achieves strong financial returns while witnessing to Quaker testimonies. They also help individuals support organizations they hold dear through giving strategies, including donor-advised funds, charitable gift annuities, and stock gifts. Learn more about FFC's services at friendsfiduciary.org.
This season is also brought to you by American Friends Service Committee. Vulnerable communities and the planet are counting on Quakers to take action for a more just, sustainable, and peaceful world. The American Friends Service Committee, or AFSC, works at the forefront of many social change movements to meet urgent humanitarian needs. Find out more about how you can get involved in their programs to protect migrant communities, establish an enduring peace in Palestine, demilitarize police forces around the world, assert the right to food for all, and more. Visit afsc.org.
Visit quakerstoday.org to see our show notes and a full transcript of this episode. And if you stick around after the closing, you will hear listeners' responses to the question, what novel, film, or television series changed your relationship with the world?
This concludes our episode of Quakers Today, reflecting on staying steady in turbulent times.
Thank you for joining us, and may you find moments of stillness and clarity.
In a moment, you will hear listeners' voicemail responses to the question, what novel, film, or television series changed your relationship with the world?
But first, we have a practical question for you about this podcast. On our Instagram account, Claudia wrote the following, quote, a little feedback on the audio of the podcast. The background music is too loud and almost like a duet with the speaker. It is distracting. I have to really focus on the speakers. It is annoying, so I will take several breaks to get through it. I really do appreciate the efforts that it takes to bring a podcast of this magnitude to us.
Thank you, Claudia, for this feedback. Who else is having this experience? We want to make sure that the show is clear and easy for everyone to hear.
Please let us know by commenting on our social media. We have TikTok, for as long as it lasts, I don't know, Instagram and X. And I guess we're considering going to Blue Sky. I mean, I can't keep up. I'm sorry. I'm feeling like I looked at Blue Sky. It's probably going to happen. You can also email us, podcast@friendsjournal.org, or call our listener voicemail line, 317-Quakers. We'll have all of these details in our show notes. If this is a problem that can be fixed, we will repair it. Oh, and speaking of repair, Miche, you have a new monthly question for us.
I do. What are some unexpected ways you find yourself drawn to repair? What are some unexpected ways you find yourself drawn to repair? I became a Quaker through a service year program named Quaker Voluntary Service. And during that time, I learned about other service years, including a Jewish service year called Repair the World. My first thought was, wow, that's kind of a bold claim.
Yeah.
That we can just repair the world. Repair the world in Hebrew is tikkun olam. It's a belief that we have a responsibility to contribute to the betterment of the world. It's not just a theoretical concept, but it's a living tradition that inspires action to make the world a better place. And during a service year, you don't have a whole lot of money to buy things. In a world that often prioritizes the new, I learned how to fix my bike, darn my socks, and even repair friendships.
Oh, I like the term darn my socks. I've not heard this in a long time. It sounds like something out of a Christmas song or something.
It was a big hobby of my city coordinator, was darning her socks.
Did you first say when you saw the holes, you're like, darn my socks? and then you darned them?
Exactly.
That's how it works. So we're talking about repairing like all kinds of things, physical things, but also potentially emotional things, friendships, relationships. Yeah, I get it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we want to, thinking of repair holistically, that it's not just objects, but the things that we do in the world. And this month, listener, I'd like to hear from you about repair. What are some unexpected ways you find yourself drawn to repair? How and when have you found joy and meaning in mending things? This could be anything from mending clothes or addressing debt to working towards restorative justice or repairing damaged relationships. What are some unexpected ways you find yourself drawn to repair? You can leave a voice memo with your name and the town where you live. The number to call is 317-Quakers. That's 317-782-5377. 317-Quakers. +1 if you're calling from outside the USA. You can also send us an email or comment on our social media posts. I'll have these contact details in our show notes over at quakerstoday.org.
Now we hear answers to the question, what novel, film, or television series changed your relationship with the world? And first, we look to answers on social media. On X, we hear from the Queer Quaker. Hey, Queer Quaker. Queer Quaker writes, I'd have to say The Dispossessed by Ursula K. Le Guin. It did an incredible job of fictionalizing the conflicts of the world while providing hope for a libertarian socialist future.
And on Instagram, at Emma Gray wrote, the TV show Star Trek, The Next Generation. Since I was a young kid up until now, my reaction remains the same, even when I watch the reruns, with themes that explore the possibility of life on other planets, science, technology, God, morality, our existence, and what it means to be human.
Elaine Emmy wrote, Ray Bradbury, especially Fahrenheit 451. And now we hear voicemails from listeners who answer this question: what novel, film, or television series changed your relationship with the world?
George Orwell's Homage to Catalonia and looking back at the Spanish Civil War, because when there was a crisis of fascism, he went to do something about it. And he challenged the conventional thinking that there was either capitalism or Soviet Union communism, and joined another group, the Catalonian anarchists. He reported the war and realized that nothing that was being printed in the newspapers was true. And he realized how important truth was. And he was so committed to that. And what it's meant for me is the truth is really important.
Sally Campbell from Morningside Meeting in New York City, Raiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. That series of essays and stories gives me great hope. And I do think if we go back to the indigenous wisdom and learn from, just be open to the trees and whatever. The Overstory was excellent too. All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Hi, this is Linda from Orcas Island Worship Group in Washington State. For me, it was a particular scene in To Kill a Mockingbird when Scout showed up as Atticus was holding vigil outside the jail. Scout showed up, much to his chagrin. As the Klansmen came in their robes, Scout happened to recognize one of them, maybe it was by the shoes, as a father of one of her classmates. And she started carrying on a conversation with him about his child. It totally diffused an otherwise violent situation. And to me, it was a prime example of how reaching for someone's humanity, for that bit of God within another person, no matter how much we disagree with their outward action, that reaching for that bit of God or humanity can diffuse a possible violence, the strength of love and care. Thank you.
Thanks for your answers.
Thanks, listener. I'll see you next month.